Hi everyone, Matt here from CarWow, and I've got the ultimate Sports Saloon group test for you today with the new BMW 3 Series, the recently revised Audi A4, the new Volvo S60, and the recently revised Mercedes C-Class, plus the, well, they haven't done anything with it recently, Alfa Romeo Giulia. So we're going to find out which of these cars is best, and to do that, I'm going to critique their designs. It's so sexy, I want to lick it. Ugh. Check out their cabins. This screen's as big as my telly. See how practical they are. And take them for a drive. This is a car that feels super alive. But first, let's talk monies. So, this is how much each of these cars costs. Now you might notice the Volvo is a little bit more expensive, but that's because the range kicks off with a higher trim level and a more powerful engine than with the other cars. However, this is how much you can save off each of these cars on average through CarWow. When you do all your maths, it does work out that the Mercedes is slightly better value than the others, but it's still quite close, so not enough to sway things. However, it is important to see how much you can pay on one of these cars yourself at a dealer, so click on the pop-out banner up there or follow the link below the video to check out the best deals through our trusted CarWow dealers. All right, and let's talk about these cars' designs, and the best looking one for me is the Alfa Romeo Giulia. I mean, look at it, it's just so beautiful. It makes me want to go, ooh. To be fair, this particular car has some upgrades. It's the TI model, so it's got some bits from the Quadrifoglio, the sports car version. So you've got carbon fibre on the door mirrors, some carbon fibre at the front and at the back. Even the normal car is just exquisite. It stands out. It makes you look and feel special. The next best looking car, I think, is the BMW 3 Series. It's also got a sporty element, not quite as much as the Alfa, but it still looks sharp. It's even better in this M Sport trim, which has some added sportiness, such as side skirts. You've got some bigger wheels, some sporty brakes, and bigger air vents and stuff like that. And one thing I really admire in BMW 4 is the fact that they've got proper exhaust pipes. Passes the CarWow stick of truth with flying colours, even though this is a diesel. The Mercedes C-Class isn't quite as youthful. There's something a bit more mature about it, but that also means it's a bit more sophisticated, elegant, classy, as the name suggests. Nice amount of chrome, yet it's still got a little bit of sportiness going on because this is the AMG line version with some bigger wheels and side skirts. It's definitely a sensible looking car, but elegant. The Audi A4 has always been a smart looking car, but it's also always been a sort of anonymous looking car as well. Now they have tried to jazz it up with some revisions, so there's some creases down the side which do look kind of good, but here at the front they've added some kind of like weird venty thing, though actually if I use the CarWow twig of truth, it will expose the fact that that vent is not a vent, it's just fakery. Now I know some people really like the look of the S60, but for me, I kind of get the feeling that the person who designed the front wasn't the same as whoever designed the back. As a result, from the side, it looks like this car's design has been cut and pasted together. For me, the V60 Estate is just a better looking thing. There, I said it. I do prefer the look of the S60 here on the inside. The minimalist design is cool, though there is a trade-off for it. It means that you have to go through the infotainment system to operate things like the climate control, which is a bit of a faff while you're driving. Also, the infotainment system itself isn't exactly the best in class. Some of the icons are a little bit small to actually touch. Then there's a digital driver's display. It's all right, but it's not the brightest. Also, some of the plastics, such as here and here, aren't as good as in the Germans. Well, I can't fault, though, the seats. These seats and the soft leather on them is lovely. In some ways, the Alfa Giulia's interior is not as good as the Volvo, so there's a few more cheap-feeling plastics, such as down here. But then in other ways, it feels better. For instance, the steering wheel is nicer. The quality of these solid metal paddle shifters is incredible. I also love the design of it. It's so super sporty. So the dials, I prefer these analog dials than the digitals in the Volvo. Then there's the infotainment system. It's brilliant how it's integrated into the dash, but it's absolutely bloody rubbish how dark it is. I mean, you can't even tell hardly that it's on. Then the navigation, oh, I forgot, it's not touchscreen, is it? I have to use a swivel wheel, which is actually all right when you're driving, to tell you the truth. Easier than using a touchscreen. but the whole system is a little bit confusing. It's the worst infotainment system here, but other than that, the cabin, super sporty, great driving position. You know that this car should be fun to drive. Here at the Mercedes, and quality has taken a step up. Pretty much everything you touch is lovely, and there's lots of metallic parts, such as up here, the switches even. It feels and looks expensive, and they've updated it with a new larger infotainment screen and infotainment system. It's not the very latest one you can get from Mercedes, but it's still pretty good, and you control it using this swivel wheel, so it's easy to do while you're driving, or you can use this button here on the steering wheel. Then there's a digital driver's display you can now get with it, and you control that using this one, and it's pretty good as well. It's a nice interior, maybe in places starting to look its age because it's been around for a while now. But there is one thing I love about the C-Class, and it's the fact that the gear selector is there on the steering column, which is much easier when you're driving and you're having to go from reverse to drive or drive to reverse, you know, like manoeuvring and stuff. I like that. They never lose that Mercedes. Keep with it. There's one thing that Audi does well, it's interiors, and the A4 is no exception. So you've got the same amount of metallic loveliness as you've got in the Mercedes, though overall quality is probably even better, which is quite impressive. I also love the climate controls, the way you have the temperature in the dial itself. And then there's the fact that they've updated it with a new infotainment system. So you've got this huge screen now on the dash, and it's a touch screen. It's actually the same system you get in the A6, which in some ways is good because it's a bit better, the system itself, but in some ways it's bad because in the past, in the old A4, you controlled it with a swivel wheel, which is actually better when you're driving. Instead, now you've just got this compartment where the swivel wheel was. That said, you do have this, the digital driver's display, and it's very, very good. And you can do most of the things that you need to with that, such as your stereo, your phone, and of course your satellite navigation. You can change the view to a full-on widescreen as well. I like it. Brilliant, easy to use. It's a nice interior. They could have updated it entirely with the new dash design that Audi is using in the A6 and the Q8 in its very latest vehicles, but still, this A4 is easily good enough. I'll tell you what it's not quite as good as though, that's the interior of the BMW. This does lead the field, both in terms of quality and the overall layout. Everything you touch, super, super solid, well screwed together, expensive feeling. The only thing that I'm not so sure about is the design of this pattern, not because I don't like it, it's just because if I stare at it too long, then my vision goes all weird. In fact, if I stare at it, can I see a dolphin? Anyway. The best thing about this car is the infotainment system though. I know I've gone about BMW's iDrive about being awesome. The thing I like about it is the fact that you can choose how you operate it. So you've got voice commands, which are actually quite good. You go, hey BMW, and it'll respond to you. Also, you can use a swivel wheel, you can use the touchpad, you can use the touch screen, you can use gesture control, so that'll turn the stereo. Come on, turn it down. See what I mean? You can control it as you want to. You have some digital dials. They're all right. They're not as good as in the Audi. I don't like the rev counter because it goes backwards. I understand why they've done that because it frees up space in between for the satellite navigation, but still you don't get quite as much information in there as you do in the Audi. Other than that though, this is great. I do love the interior. It's a great car to sit in. Brilliant driving position. They've nailed it. They've only blooming gone and nailed it. Hey guys, sorry for interrupting the video, but I wanted to tell you about a fabulous opportunity. CarWow is offering you the chance to invest. For as little as £10, you can invest in CarWow, which is not only this rather awesome YouTube channel, but a whole car buying platform in the UK, Germany and Spain. If you click on the pop-out banner just up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or follow the link in the description, you can find out more about how you can own part of this channel and business and share in our future success, and I guess sort of be one of my bosses. Now don't hang about, this offer is limited and you don't want to miss out. Anyway, thanks for listening and on with the video. The 3 Series is also the best car when it comes to carrying rear passengers. There's loads of headroom, knee room's good as well. The rear seat backs are reasonably reclined, so you feel comfy on longer journeys. It can cope with carrying 3 people in the back at once better than the other cars, and it's dead easy to fit a child seat because there's enough room to fit a rear-facing seat in without having to push the front passenger seat forward. And I like the fact that the Isofix covers, they don't remove, they just flip up, so you'll never lose them. Well, you shouldn't do. It's good here. The back of the A4 feels pretty much as roomy as the 3 Series. Maybe not quite as much headroom, but there's not much in it. The seats aren't quite as comfortable though. They're a bit firmer, but it's not that big a deal. Also, it's dead easy to fit a child seat in here as well. You do have Isofix covers, which are removable though, so you'll probably lose them. unless you're as good a shot as me, of course. Then there's the fact that the body isn't quite so wide, so it's a little bit more cramped for shoulder room when you come to carry 3 people in the back at once. But really, that's my only complaint. For me, I think this Volvo is nice to sit in the back of. First of all, the seats here in the back are super comfy, just like the fronts, and I've got loads of knee room. The only thing is this though, headroom is quite tight. I'm fine, but someone over 6 foot may struggle a little bit. Also, if you need to carry 3 in the back at once, this isn't as good as the Audi nor the BMW because the body is even narrower than both of them. Then there's fitting a child seat. You see the door opening is a bit of an awkward shape, so you have to kind of work the seat into place. It's a bit more of a faff, though at least you do have pop-up Isofix covers rather than the removable ones. Another thing that I've noticed in here is I've got a 3-pin plug socket there, which is cool, but then there's a weird kind of tray here. What's it for? Can you fit anything in it? No. Oh yes, hopefully no one will break because then that's just going to fall off. Odd. Here in the C-Class, headroom is even tighter than in the Volvo, so my head is almost brushing the roof. It's not helped by this sunroof, to be fair. People over 6 foot could struggle a bit back here. Knee room's fine though, as you can see. If you need to carry 3 across the back at once, it's not the greatest because of the way this roof curves up. The people in the outer 2 chairs end up having their heads pressed up against it. Fitting a baby seat isn't ideal either if it's one of those big rear-facing seats because you have to move the front passenger seat forward. At least you've got flip away Isofix covers. Look, I like the way they operate. Boops, back into place. Lovely. Let's not beat around the bush. The Alfa is the least good car for carrying people in the back. It's not terrible. That's why I say least good rather than worst. But headroom, look, if I sit up tall, it's pretty tight. In fact, if I lean back, my head is... Did you hear that? It's actually touching the roof lining. I think I broke a clip. Classic Alfa build quality, eh? Knee room is a bit tighter as well. Another thing to note is that for carrying 3 people in the back, this huge hump in the floor really does get in the way of people's feet, so it's the worst for that as well. It's also the worst for fitting a rear-facing child seat because you do have to push the passenger seat quite a way forward. And look at the Isofix covers. Yes, they are pop-up, but the quality in them, you can see bits of seat fabric and foam, which isn't great. And then the actual anchor point is recessed quite far in, so it's a bit of a faff to get to. It's just not been as well thought out as the other cars. Which brings me on to the slightly weird looking air vents in the back, which kind of remind me of a deranged robot. Let's talk about boot, and the least good boot is the Alfa's, which is bizarre because actually in terms of capacity, 480 litres, it's right at the very top. But there's things that are a bit annoying about it. First of all, this springs up quite fast, and look, when I shut it, it wobbles, which kind of makes you feel this car is a little bit flimsy. Then there's the shape of the boot, so it's a bit more of an awkward shape to actually load it full. You do get fold down rear seats, which are 3-way split on Veloce models. Oh, go on, there we go. And so you can load bigger items in. So how much can you fit in it? Annoyingly, with the Alfa, you can't fit a bike into the back without taking off a wheel. However, this is how much you can fit into it with the seats folded. There's room for 2 large boxes and 2 small boxes, then 2 small boxes. Then in the boot area, another 2 small boxes, a large and a small suitcase, and a set of golf clubs. And this is how much you can fit into it with the seats upright. 2 large suitcases and a set of golf clubs only, or 1 large suitcase and a baby buggy, and that's due to that awkward shape that I mentioned a moment ago. The next least good boot is the Mercedes C-Classes. So its capacity is 455 litres, though it doesn't feel anywhere near as flimsy as the Alfa's, and this one's got an electric tailgate. Also, it's got folding rear seats on this model, and yet again, I'll lean in and push this down, and you can see the space there. The only real issue is the shape of this boot opening, because it's curved, is a little bit harder to load and squeeze items in. With the seats folded, you can fit a bike into the C-Class without having to take its wheels off. Also, 2 large boxes, 1 small box, then another 3 small boxes, and then in the main boot, another 3 small boxes, plus 1 large suitcase, plus a soft bag. And here's what you can fit into the boot with the seats upright. 2 large suitcases, 2 small suitcases, and a set of golf clubs. Well, that's better than the Alfa. It seems that Mercedes can get more in from less space. Now, the Volvo has the smallest boot by capacity, 442 litres, but it's actually the 3rd best overall in terms of what you can fit into it. So the opening is nice and wide, so it's easy to load. It's also a square shape, so you can make the most of it. The slightly annoying thing is that you have to pay about 400 quid if you want folding rear seats on every single version. And to lower them, you can't do it from the boot, you have to go round, and then you press a button, which is electrically operated, to lower the headrest, and then to release the catch. and then you can flop them down and away you go. It's easy to slide things in there. In fact, you can fit a bike in there without having to take the wheels off. And there's room for 2 large and 1 small box, then 3 small boxes into the main boot area and another 3 small, plus 1 large suitcase, 1 medium and 2 small suitcases. And with the seats up, you can fit in 2 large suitcases, 2 small suitcases and a buggy or a set of golf clubs plus a soft bag. So not too bad really. The second best boot is the BMWs. And look, we have an automated tailgate again. You probably don't really need them on the saloon, especially when they're that slow. Come on, up, 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 come on. Yeah. The opening is nice and square, and the capacity you have there is 480 litres, so the same as the Alfa, so joint biggest. But it's a better usable boot, this is. Also, as standard, you get fold down rear seats. Yeah, you don't have to pay for them here on the BMW, which is good news. I'll just flop them down. Oh, oh. Yeah, there's a bit of a hump in the middle of the floor, which does hamper things ever so slightly. So how much can you fit in this car? Well, with the seats folded, you can fit a bike in without having to take the wheels off. Also, there's room for 2 large boxes and 2 small boxes. Then a further 6 small boxes, 2 large suitcases, 2 small suitcases and a soft bag. You can also fit a baby buggy in there if you need to. With the seats up, there's room for 2 large suitcases and 2 medium suitcases, plus golf clubs or a baby buggy. You take your choice. It's a really useful, practical boot. Brilliant. However, the prize for the best boot goes to the Audi A4. This one's not automated, but look, it's damped, so it doesn't want to whack you on the chin like the Alfa. And when you shut it, it doesn't wobble like it's made out of scrap metal. The capacity is the same as the Alfa and the BMW, 480 litres, but it makes the best use of that space out of all of them. It's a huge square opening, look at that. It's really, really good. To fold down the seats, I do have to go around the side. That's the only thing that annoys me about this car. So I'll just do that now, bear with me. Oh no, this is a big long reach along. Right, that's that done. But it's quite a smooth, continuous floor, as you can see. So, how much can you fit in this? Well, you'll easily fit a bike in there with the wheels attached, and there's room for 2 large boxes, 3 small boxes, 3 more small boxes, 2 large suitcases, and 2 small suitcases. Meanwhile, with the seats up, you can fit in 2 large suitcases and 2 small suitcases, plus a buggy or a set of golf clubs. You decide. So, that's all the practicality stuff dealt with. Let's go on to something more exciting. Now it's time to compare how these cars drive, and I'm going to start off with the Volvo, because with the Volvo you think you know what you're going to get. So you expect it to be nice and comfy and relaxing, and it kind of is alright, but the ride on this car is a little bit on the firm side, and there's a bit of noise from those big tyres. You see, Volvo has taken a slightly different approach with this S60. They're trying to make it a bit more sporty, a bit more like the Germans. You can only get it with a 255 horsepower turbo petrol, which means that it's quick, and it's got quite firm suspension, especially this R design version. So I'm thinking I'll take that loss in comfort that I'd normally expect from a Volvo, because this is going to be fun. So let's see how quick this engine is. I've got the car in dynamic mode. I'm going to floor it. Kicks down all right actually, and delivers decent performance. That's all right. I'm going to back off and just check the economy, because I don't want to ruin it by going too quickly. This thing's averaging 35 miles per gallon, which is good considering the performance you can get from this engine. So far so good, but what is this car like when you chuck it down a twisty road? Does it feel sporty then? Let's try it. Oh, you've got to remember this thing is front wheel drive. Oh. It goes around all right, but when you really start to push it, it starts to run out of ideas and become very, very Volvo-y. The stability control starts kicking in at the slightest kind of hint that the car's moving around, going, no, calm down, we're a Volvo, let's be sensible. And ultimately, it just doesn't grip quite as well as you want it to. You're not going to have much fun hooning this about. It's supposed to be sporty, but it's not sporty enough. I think they got it wrong with this car. Volvo should have just played their usual comfort card and just left it at that. Guys, you ain't sporty. You just ain't. Soz. Okay, so I've jumped out of the Volvo. I'm now in the Mercedes C-Class, and it does feel more comfortable, though it still does fidget a bit over bumps. Also, depending on the surface you're on, you can get a bit more tyre noise thrown up, but generally it is a bit smoother and more relaxing. Now, if I floor the throttle, yeah, oh, this engine's strong, and the gearbox responds even better than the Volvo's actually. I like this gearbox. fact, I like this gearbox engine combination, it's good. This 2 litre turbo petrol with 258 horsepower. As for the economy, now one of the key differences between this Mercedes and the Volvo is that this Mercedes is rear wheel drive, which is the setup the sports cars use, though you can get a 4-wheel drive version. So is that going to help with the cornering? So here we go. We've got the car in dynamic mode as well, the sportiest setting. Chuck it into a corner. It's better than the Volvo, grip's a bit better, but eventually your stability control kicks in and reins things in a bit. And the steering and the brakes, they're just overly assisted. You get the feeling this is a car that's set up more for older people that don't want to be hurried, because when you start to hurry this, it does lean a bit in the corners. So let's slow it down and behave more like an older, more sensible driver, the kind who would buy a C-Class. Ah, yeah, that's better. That's what it's for. Now then, I'm in the Alfa Giulia, and I'm going to go straight onto the twisty road because this car feels way more sporty than the other two. I want to see how it handles. Put it into manual mode, the automatic gearbox. Yeah, this thing is noticeably sportier than the other two. Wow, it is like a little sports car. And you forget that you've got like 2 seats behind you. Super quick. When you push really hard, it does start to run wide, but my gosh, it's alive! The engine's good as well. The gearbox changes okay when you're doing the pedals yourself. They're a bit hard to hit sometimes when you're going around a corner because they're stuck on the steering column and don't move with the wheel. Wow, that was fun. What a fun car. Now though, let's see if you can do the normal day-to-day stuff. So I'm going to put the drive select into normal. This has got adaptive dampers, so it's slacking them off, so it should feel a bit more comfortable. Still feels relatively firm. You feel the bumps a bit, but it's not uncomfortable. Let's put it into automatic mode. Right, let's floor it and see how it responds. Oh, it does have a slight delay on the gearbox when you're kicking down in comfort mode, but once it's on song, this 2 litre, 280 horsepower engine is super strong. And for just cruising around, it can do, well, I'm getting 31 miles per gallon, which is not bad at all. The only thing that annoys me about it really is the fact that you do get quite a bit of wind noise from here. I don't think it's as comfortable as the Mercedes, but like the Mercedes, it is rear wheel drive. Thing is though, I would be willing to sacrifice that loss in comfort to have the sporty fun side of this car, the Mercedes. So now I'm in the last but one car, the Audi A4, and you expect it to be comfortable on the motorway, good round town, quiet, relaxing, and yep, it is all of those things, and it's all of those things more than the other 3 cars I've driven so far. So if I've got to do long distance or mooch around town, I would pick this Audi. As for the performance, well, this is the 2 litre petrol with 190 horsepower. It's the 40 TFSI, because in Audi land, 40 equals 190 horsepower, obviously. Anyway, let's see how this engine and gearbox responds when I floor it to overtake. Floor it. Oh, picks up very quickly, and I'm overtaking. There, that's 70. Punchy engine, it still remains calm, smooth, refined, relaxing. This car is good so far. Let's put the car into dynamic mode, the gearbox into manual. So that has sharpened up the throttle response, and it's made the steering a bit heavier, though it still feels quite light. Let's chuck it into a corner. This car's front wheel drive, but my gosh, wait a minute, this is a bit odd. I think it's handling pretty much as good as the Alfa. It doesn't feel as sporty, the steering's not as sharp, but the way it goes round the corners with confidence, I reckon I could drive it as quickly as the Alfa. It's certainly quite a lot ahead of the Volvo, the other front wheel drive car in this test, though obviously you can get this A4 with 4-wheel drive if you do need some more grip. I've forgotten to tell you about the economy. Is that good as well? 32 miles per gallon, not bad for a turbo petrol. It appears you can get all right economy from petrol engines, so you don't necessarily need a diesel. Or do you? Well, I've jumped into the BMW, and this is the 320d, which means it's got a 2 litre turbocharged diesel engine with 190 horsepower. It's the only diesel I've got on test, and it's averaging 44 miles per gallon. And basically, while diesel is out of favour at the moment, if you're doing lots of motorway miles, get yourself a diesel because you will find them cheaper to run. So if you're a diesel hater, bugger off, go hug a tree, because ultimately, if you're doing lots of miles, diesels are the way to go. And the petrols you can get with this BMW are pretty good as well. As for the performance from this diesel, well, I'm doing 50 miles an hour, I'm going to floor it. Gearbox is brilliant, it's the best gearbox here, responds so well, and 70 miles an hour is dealt with pretty swiftly. Feels almost as quick as the petrols, this thing. A bit more noise because it's a diesel, but that's about it. In fact, this car is really quiet. It feels as quiet and as comfy over bumps as the Audi A4. Really relaxing to travel in. But of course, BMWs are supposed to be all about the driving, so I'm going to put this car into manual mode for the gearbox. I'm going to put it into sport settings, so that's sharpened up the throttle response, and it's also stiffened up the adaptive dampers on this particular car because it's fitted with them. Let's chuck it into some corners. There's more grip, so you can push a bit harder through the bends than you can in the Alfa. The steering is just as sharp, there's actually a bit more feel through it, and this car is just slightly better at telling you what's going on underneath you, so you have more confidence to really thrash it. This is a fun car to drive. BMW have nailed it. Way! So it does the whole comfort, relaxing thing well. It does economy if you have this diesel, and it does the fun bit. It's a great all-rounder that just excels in every area. You can have all of your cake and eat all of it with this 3 Series. I'm blown away. So then, what's my final verdict? Well, in last place is the Volvo S60. It's all right, but as sports saloons go, it's just not quite good enough. Sorry, Volvo, but it's true. In 4th place is the Mercedes C-Class. It is classy and it's comfy, though unfortunately it's not quite the comfiest. Now in 3rd place is the Alfa Giulia. It is the most beautiful car here. It's stunning and it feels really sporty, though being sporty isn't the be-all and end-all. And that's why in 2nd place is the Audi A4, which for most people, most of the time, will be a better car to live with. It's a fabulous all-rounder. Though unfortunately for Audi, the BMW 3 Series is also a fabulous all-rounder, yet it's also great fun to drive as well. And that's why it wins this test. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course, if you click on the windows below, you can watch more videos. If you click on the box over there, you can find out more about how you can invest in CarWow and be part of our future success for as little as £10. Hurry though, because the offer is limited.